Welcome everyone to our holiday 2020 installment of the Innovation Leader Speaker Series. My name is Carrie Slade. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Strategic Management at the Fox School of Business of Temple University, and I'm the assistant academic director of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute, which sponsors this program. I'm so excited to welcome Stephen Maund as our presenter here today. He's a Temple alum and a member of the Board of Visitors of the College of Engineering. I'm going to go through a couple of slides before I turn it over to Stephen. There may be some QR codes, so get your QR scanner up if you would like to scan any of these codes. Okay. Sorry, just a couple pop-up windows. This series grew out of our Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship Master's Program, which is a 1-year full-time or up to 5 years part-time master's program for anyone interested in furthering an innovation career or de-risking entrepreneurship or learning innovation and entrepreneurship techniques to use in any business. It's a really exciting program. If you're interested in learning more, our 3 concentrations are pictured there, and you can scan the QR code or email me for more information, carrie.slade@temple.edu. We would love to thank our sponsors, the IEI, as I mentioned, where I work, the Fox School, the PDMA, the Philadelphia chapter, the Innovation Research Interchange, Technically Philly, and the Center for Student Professional Development at the Fox School. We have a couple more events coming up. I hope you'll join us for them or watch the recordings if you're watching this after they occurred. Lubab Sheet Davis as Vice President of Strategy and Innovation at Lamb Research, and then Vineet Mehta as Director of Information Governance at Comcast. So we're really excited for those presentations and hope you'll join us. We have a variety of ways for you to get involved with us at the IEI. You can review submissions, you can be a mentor, many different opportunities. So we love if you want to get involved, go to our website, there's a get involved form, or you can scan the QR code or contact me. All right, I would love to introduce our guest again, Stephen Maund, CEO and President of Demco Automation, which is an industrial robotics company. They make manufacturing equipment, which is a really interesting, exciting industry. He acquired the company in 2010 after serving as the Director of Engineering and Manufacture since 2001, and he's led it to be twice recognized in the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in the US. Today, he will talk to us about some trends in the industry and his innovation, forward-thinking and innovative processes and the leadership style he used to achieve these amazing results for Demco. So please welcome Temple alum and Board of Visitors of the College of Engineering member, Stephen Maund. Stephen, I'll stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time today. I'd like to thank Temple University, the Fox School of Business, and the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute for inviting me to speak today in the Innovation Leader Speaker Series. Today, we're going to cover a lot of topics in a short period of time, but I think they will be of interest to many. We'll start off with a little bit of a background on what industrial robotics is. There are many different facets of robotics in today's world, and I thought it would be a great idea to kind of dig down into the key elements of industrial automation and robotics, since it really is a driver of the world economy in general. Number 2, we'll talk a little bit about industrial robotics and the economy. Number 3, technology business growth and what we see as our strategies moving forward to grow our business. And then number 4, some keys to our growth over time. They may be of interest to you and give you some pointers as to some of the things that we learned and I personally learned as we continue to grow this company. Okay, I'm going to start a little bit up again about what is industrial automation and robotics and where we're headed. Today's automation industry is really a series of many engineering facets combined to automatically control processes and systems, whether it be mechanical, electrical, software, all of these particular components put together to create something that's automated and possibly mimics human interactions and processes. You know, and if we were to boil that down completely, automation is really the engine of the modern economy and the reason that anybody can afford anything. So if you were to even take a look around the room today at what you can see with your own eyes in front of you, whether it be the computer, the light bulb, the lamp in your office, the pen that you hold to take notes, they're all produced via automation. And the only way that anybody can afford these technologies is via automation at this point. A couple of anniversaries of interest just to show you that automation has been around for a long time. It continues to advance, but if you were to look back in time, the cotton gin and just the invention of interchangeable parts amongst copies of different things was 227 years ago, back in the late 1700s by Eli Whitney. We take things such as assembly line techniques of today, get their roots back to Henry Ford and others 107 years ago, back into the early 1900s when the advent of the automobile and the production principles were created. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of video and pictures of what typical automation equipment looks like in the manufacturing environment. And many times they're very dedicated, other times they can be flexible. In this case, we have an image here of a benchtop piece of automation. It's not only the large room-sized industrial equipment that you may see in news clips, but also small benchtop aids like this one for medical device to actually assemble a surgical instrument with human interaction. So in this case, the operator loads the components, they hit those two yellow buttons, and then the automated process happens where we attach the cutting instrument to the handle or the handset and torque it to proper specifications so that it maintains reliability and the standards for, obviously, in the medical profession. Here we have a slide of a more fixed automation solution, but it's for automotive connectors. These particular systems, we have multiple units in actually in Mexico. The suite of these systems create anywhere from 10 to 14 million connectors annually. And then when you multiply that amongst a suite of equipment, it could be as much as 30 to 40 million connectors per year, supplied to many of the big three companies as a tier one supplier. Here's a more recent introduction to a medical device. This system is made to process and create surgical instruments, actually in this case for ophthalmic surgical instruments. It's got up to 24 key processes and then also minor processes thereof. There are things such as vision inspection, micro miniature injection molded parts to create the mechanisms that actuate the cutting instrument. We have robotics in here. You can see in the foreground these what are called SCARA industrial robots. So there's a series of fixed and flexible automation in this particular system to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Actually, before we move on, I'll show you a video. I'm just going to switch slides here, the view for us. And where the heck is the sharing button here? Here we go. Is that there, Carrie?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Great. So here's an example of a system very similar to that still shot I showed you, with multiple industrial robots assembling and packaging a surgical instrument for medical device. This system will reside in a clean room. We have inspection techniques and various tooling methods to actually create and form the cutting instrument. And then beyond that, package it. There are fairly sophisticated control systems in here that connect to the factory software for recipe and lot management, good, bad, reject statistics, and other. Okay, switching back to the next slide. Just a quick diversion. Earlier this year, seems like last year, but earlier this year, we donated an industrial robot cell to the Temple University College of Engineering in their new Ideas Hub. This was a significant expansion within the College of Engineering to supply the students with research lab and collaboration spaces for the College of Engineering. In this case, we are partnering with the college to provide this industrial automation so that not only can they utilize this in class lab work, but also, as importantly, collaborating with companies in process development and research. Then there's another slide here that shows some of the internal views. This showing a 6-axis robot with force guidance, has vision guidance, and other material handling methods to create a great lab opportunity for the students. This is just a view of a typical day within the factory. We've got on the left side a couple of folks assembling a system. In this case, it's a robot cell. On the right-hand side, in our engineering lab, we have some folks collaborating on a system there. Just an example of other parts of automation. We have on the right-hand side a feeding unit designed, built, and constructed in our factory for feeding miniature injection molded components. You can see those small clear/white components are being fed in the system to a robot for assembly. And the penny is there just to give you a scale of how small the components are. On the left-hand side, we've got in the top left corner where it says pass. This is a vision system in a pharmaceutical environment for inspecting vaccine vials, looking for and verification that there is no debris or glass or anything else within the vaccine fluid before it ships out. On the right-hand side in the top is a system that frankly was shipped, 2 of them actually during the pandemic, to a medical device supplier for used in biomanufacturing and vaccine development. So they've been very active. Lower left corner is a pipette assembly system. Again, the volumes for this particular product have actually gone through the roof and have a very high demand through testing and other functions in this time. Okay, this is in our engineering lab. We have equipment there to do process development and feasibility studies for our customers. In this case, we can see a collaborative robot on the right-hand side. It actually has 2 arms. Each arm itself has 7 axes of motion in order to mimic the fine control of a human arm, hand, and fingers. Also within the end or the hand of the robot, there are vision systems in there to actually hold its hand out and look at the component for either inspection or position guidance. And we're going to show just a very quick video here to give you an idea of the articulations in this particular robot. I think you'll find it interesting. This is a collaborative robot, and the collaborative robot is used to interact with humans and in a safe manner, in some cases without even guarding, as this one is. So in this case, we are demonstrating in our lab the marriage of fixed automation as this indexing system and the collaborative and flexible automation that you find in a collaborative robot like this ABB robot, and then also pallet conveyance. So in this case, we've got a more fixed automation picking up and assembling a cap. So we've got the cap being inspected, loaded in, labeled. Here's the labeling station where you actually put the label on automatically, and then stamp it with the stamp. After that process is completed, the robot picks up that cap and loads it to the other parts that it is assembling with the left arm. And here you can see the 2 arms work in tandem and together as needed. Some of the parts here are being queued up on a pallet conveyor system. The pallets are traversing to the robot. The robot picks up the pin, loads it to the base, and then loads it directly onto the cap onto the pin and body. So this is an example of collaborative robots. This is a newer technology today and coming into its own in many different forms in industry and society in general. Now we went from the small to the large. This is the last image of equipment that I will show you today. This is a production assembly system that is as large as 65 feet long with many different processes, including 3-dimensional laser scanning for defect detection on the fly, and other technologies such as that. We have a suite of these systems. They run millions of parts a year and are designed specifically for that automation task at hand. Driving back down into the small, here's some images of some systems that we developed years ago. The pencil eraser is showing a laser diode for CD scanning when that was popular. Of course, it's not so popular today. On the right-hand side is actually a miniature optical disc that has up to I think at the point was 2 gigabytes of storage space on a small disc, which at the time was very advanced technology, and then some of the flex circuits for that process. Sorry about that, hit my mouse. Okay, so where are we headed today? There are new trends and technologies that are coming out. I wanted to focus specifically in the area of the industrial and corporate sector, more so than, let's say, drones and automated vehicles and things of this nature. That's a whole subject matter in its own. So I wanted to kind of drill down into something that maybe was a little bit less prevalent in the press to give you a little bit of insight. So where are we headed? There are a few key technologies that I wanted to hit on briefly. One of which is collaborative robots. We talked about that just a few minutes ago in the video. This is really taking off, and in cases where there are, let's say, processes that are potentially too complex or finicky for an operator to do, they could potentially be done by collaborative robots and then have the operator do other processes. Secondly, we have 3D vision and bin picking. Vision systems have been around for a long time. I think the first time I was involved in working on a vision system was back in the probably the very early 90s, late 80s. It's advanced quite a bit since that time. 3D vision in conjunction with AI is now giving us the opportunity to pick and manipulate components from a randomized, let's say, crate or box of components without having to be pre-sorted. This is an important strategy for many companies, including, let's say, fruits and vegetables. Things like Amazon, where there is a very randomized component that is being processed. So this technology, as it advances, can give us much more efficiency in the packaging and sortation sectors of our economy. And then the third thing here on this slide is industrial Internet of Things. If we were to think of connected thermostats, refrigerators, and other things within your home, cameras, the trend at this point is to do the same thing in industry so that anybody could take their cell phone and be able to find instantaneous information within a factory system, understand its uptime, its statistics, how much production is available for an incoming order, is there preventive maintenance required on the equipment, or even as far now as predictive maintenance, being able to predict the when the system requires maintenance and reduce downtime. We also have things as AI-based machine control. You know, case in point, you may be able to take the vision system and be able to detect variations within a product rather than having hard-taught software tools. This is very important in things such as, again, I talked about variation in products such as fruits and vegetables, varying non-structured elements. And then the third thing, or I'm sorry, the fifth thing I wanted to talk about today is mass customization. You know, we talked about Henry Ford in the beginning. You were able to pick any Model T that you wanted as long as it was black and the same as the other ones. In this case, today we can have almost infinite customization on the fly in production systems. This will continue as a trend and give the consumer and or user much more flexibility in what their specific needs are. Okay, I'd like to move quickly into industrial robotics and the economy. How integrated are industrial robotics and the economy? It's very closely integrated. You know, in this case, let me just head back once. Sorry about that. Manufacturing is actually 12% of the GDP. So it's not a small number. And it can and does influence everything that happens in the economy, as well as things such as employment trends, consumer trends, technology drivers. Growth is slowing a little bit at this point due to circumstances, but over the long term, manufacturing, industrial robotics, and things like this are a growth trend over the long term. They will continue to grow. Prior to March, there was very active business activity for us and others in our industry, and it will continue into next year. It just depends on which particular areas you may be involved in. Some have slowed down, others have picked up. You know, active areas are things such as medical device, pharmaceutical, biotech, commercial, industrial, energy, and defense are other growth areas. So why is automation a necessity? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but just as a highlight, we have consumer demands such as quality and workmanship. People are demanding higher quality, higher levels of workmanship in their consumption. They also, as we talked about previously, really want customized products. So mass customization is really a key trend that will continue. And people demand unlimited choice. So with that, sometimes automation is something that's needed so that we can very quickly adapt the production process. There are also, as everyone knows, economic pressures. We've got international competition, tariffs, foreign government monetary policies that affect these create pressures, and also very important, increasing labor costs. The increasing labor costs really can drive automation in a factory to reduce that resource count, so that those same resources can be redeployed in other areas, such as emerging and customized solutions that are to be brought up into the future. Manufacturing job openings are at an all-time high, regardless of automation and its advancement. And this will also continue. Okay, we're going to switch gears at this point. I want to talk about growth in our company and how we've really moved from stagnancy to growth over the past years. So we're going to hit 4 different areas, background of our company and how we got where we are. We're going to talk a little bit about unicorns and that not every business necessarily needs to be one. Setting up the business for growth, and also some of the lessons learned that we've come across in our time in this growth phase. So the first thing is unicorns. Not every business is a unicorn. And we have, you know, a somewhat comical picture here of a unicorn ready to hit a brick wall. Quite often unicorns do hit that brick wall, but then there are cases where they break through. However, that being said, not every business is a unicorn, nor develops earth-shattering technology. Businesses can become successful with steady growth and future acquisition opportunity in spite of this. You know, we don't necessarily have to have the one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-century product revolution in order to become a successful company. And I thought this was an important thing to convey in this particular talk, because a lot of times people that are starting out a business expect the unicorn or demand it or think that that's the only way to go, when in fact it is not the only alternative. How do you do this? Well, it's a well-grounded, realistic, forward-looking attitude that really can reap the reward of successful business. And also with having these well-grounded, realistic, and forward-looking attitudes, we can do that without spinning out of control. I've been involved in my career with a couple of companies, startups, and fast-growing companies that do spin out of control. And it was one of my goals to move forward, yet not get to the point where things begin to fall apart. So, Kerry mentioned that we were on the Inc. 5000 list. We were on this twice. Also in fastest growing business in Lehigh Valley a couple of times. But I want to kind of focus on what does fast growing business mean? Well, if you were to look at the Inc. 5000 list on any given year, usually the top spots are in the multiple thousands of % growth over a 3-year period. In the case of 2019, the fastest growing company was at a 48,000% growth rate over 3 years. That's a lot of growth, and there are only certain methods that work in that, one of which being a scalable business and has ultimate scalability. For what we do not have that kind of scalability. We produce customized, very complex and risky automation solutions and developing processes. So, our growth, okay, 69% over 3 years, but in essence, it's quite a bit of growth. You've got a lot of infrastructure to work with, and things of this nature that, are sometimes more challenging than, for example, if you have a phone app with a heavy software-driven back end that scales with minimal resource increases. When taking over the company, I was the director of engineering and manufacturing for years, and when acquiring the company, number one, it was in the middle of the Great Recession. Things were really decimated, and one of the things that happened in that time frame was freezing capital expenditures at our customers. So it was tough. We had to come up with a strategy for growth coming out of the stagnancy. So one of the first things that we did was to put a plan together of where we are, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. So where we were was, again, middle of the recession. We had near zero backlog, and in manufacturing, we had job sharing for 6 months. In the meantime, we were out pining for business, and we were adapting our services until we were able to get back on our feet, and we're contracting technician services and other sorts of things to maintain some level of business. So through all of that, we needed to create backlog and a customer base. At the time, one of the traps we had was only having a few key customers, one of which was 80 plus, well, really 2 customers combined was 80+% of our business. And obviously, if any one of those 2 businesses were to either slow down or begin working with another supplier, we were in big trouble. So it was imperative that we started to expand our customer base, and that's what we did. We also manage cash flow. We manage cash flow by project so that we can keep completely attuned of what's going on in our business. And the other thing we did was develop a 3-goal strategy that we look at every year or every other year based upon what the goal is, to ensure that we're moving forward in many areas, but some of them are innovation, customer advancement, and platform development, which in a lot of cases could be considered standard product development. In our case, it's more of a platform. What were some of the keys to our growth? Really, everybody from a customer standpoint is vital. Customer service and supporting our customers, we have found to be critical. It maintains the relationship of the customer and the supplier in our case. They inherently will come back to you and work with you very closely if you have that good relationship and supporting them and their needs. Of course, in a practical way. The next thing would be customer support in the area of technology. One of the keys there is that we continue to develop technology that covers a wide breadth of our customer base. It's key that we do not stagnate in the technologies that we supply, because that would be really a death sentence for the company, especially in what we are involved in. The next area is finance. Finance is one of those things as a startup. Many people here may be a business major, but there are many founders that are not business majors and sometimes are not paying attention to finance as much as they should be. Some of the keys here are managing cash wisely. I was talking about that earlier. Some of the techniques that we use are progress payments and down money. So in the case of our contracts, some of our contracts are as much as $3 million in contract value. It takes maybe 6-7 months to complete the contract, sometimes maybe even a little longer, sometimes shorter. And we need to manage that cash flow. So one way to do that is to get a progress payment so that we can maintain our cash health throughout the duration of the project. The other thing is being intimate with the income statement, balance sheet, and overhead, as well as costing. For us, costing is king. We need to understand the costs in our programs. We have thousands of resource hours in a particular project. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital purchases or component purchases to create these systems. So we need to really make sure that we're on track in costing. Otherwise, we will be underwater from a profitability standpoint. The other thing I've instituted is having quarterly financials. As a company continues to grow, you really need to keep on top of, what is the financial picture and that snapshot over time. So we do that quarterly and really focus on the half-year segments so that we know where we're headed and where we've been so far in the year. We calculate overhead rates twice per year because they do vary and change, and this affects our pricing. As you can imagine, when we're bidding a contract, it may not come to fruition for 6 or 8 months. So for us to have a good understanding of overhead rates as they relate to labor hours is critical. And, you know, the next thing is operations. It's imperative to understand the core competencies and investing of that within the business cycle. You know, we want to stay first off within our core competencies. That's not to say we don't innovate and move into new areas, but the vast majority of our business is geared toward a certain area that we feel we excel and perform well for our customers. And we want to stay in that lane and divert in areas of development where we see it makes strategic sense. So the tough thing in a fast-growing business or even a smaller business is to stay focused and not be the moth to the shining porch light in the middle of the night. You've got to maintain some level of focus. Otherwise, you're so distracted that you end up taking your eye off the ball. And it's one of the things I've learned over time here. The other thing is we need to be creative with expenses and things like infrastructure expenditures. You know, I've seen countless times with, and I'm sure capital venture people out there that are watching this know very well that the minute the check goes out to the business is the minute that brand new furniture comes in the door and a lot of bells, whistles, and niceties that may not necessarily go toward the key investments required to grow the company. And I've seen, you know, customers that we've had in the past that still have the tags floating on chairs in the office at the time that they're actually in the process of shutting down because they've basically spun out of control. And then just, you know, a final note on operations is hiring according to business levels. You know, it's important to look at two sides of that equation. First off, what's happening between now and the next 6 months? You know, what is the backlog situation? What is the level of business at that particular time? But not only just looking in front of the hood of the car like that, but looking down the road. How, in fact, are we going to look in the next 1 to 2 years? Is it really necessary to bring that resource on? Is it necessary to bring more on because you've got that larger opportunity that's in the process of being developed? And you need to bring those resources on before it happens. So by looking at the 30,000-foot view and then also the ground level and understanding both of those to get the match is really important. And I like to say that really hiring too many people too fast is just as detrimental to business as hiring too little too late. They're both very important. So we're wrapping up here pretty soon. We've got, I wanted to talk a little bit about technology and innovation as the last part of this. You know, we are always looking ahead. Stagnancy is death in a technology company. You know, we're constantly developing new features and technologies in our offerings. Even though it's not a standard product, we continue to develop these processes and techniques that are with the goal of making our customers successful. You know, we're moving into things like we said earlier, flexible feeding, 3D vision picking, things such as industrial Internet of Things. All of these newer technologies, as they evolve, will eventually be mainstream, and we need to be prepared for that. You know, really in our business, antiquated and non-competitive technology is stagnation that becomes death, as I was saying before. It's just critical. So with that, I want to thank everybody. I know it was a lot of information, but at the same time, I think it was some good subject matter to give you an overview of not only trends in industrial robotics, but then also a little bit about lessons learned in a technology and industrial manufacturing based company with engineering. These are not the easiest companies to grow. There are a lot of gears and levers to it. And I felt that, providing some of the background of what we've learned would be helpful to people watching this lecture series. So thank you again. Thank you to Carrie and